Blog Talk Radio.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity. Using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
When you're adopted by a white family, you see things so differently. The whole world is completely different. And I can't say I'd want to see it any other way, but for many years I felt so out of place around black people. It's just weird. It was weird for me. I wasn't used to it. I was aware of the fact that they looked at me and saw a girl that was different. What's different about your high school compared to Hunter Finish?
It sucks. There's no diversity at all except for one half black. So wait, like 1/4 black.
Is that Lena?
No, there's another one.
That makes one full black person. You just combine them.
Anyway,
Yes.
back to the high school thing.
Right. And now I go to Erasmus. Erasmus is definitely different because there isn't a single white kid in the school.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. The only white people are the teachers. But most of the people. What?
Do you feel safe?
I feel perfectly safe. The teachers are really cool. Like they all listen to Rastafari music and so good. So.
Guys, I gotta go.
You gotta go. I was about to say that. 5:41.
I've gotta go. See you guys later.
It's a lot of pressure. I was the only black kid in my class. And they always look to you at, how do you feel about that? And I'm like, you're asking the wrong person. Like, I'm just like the rest of you. I ain't raised in a white family. I don't have, like, an opinion where I'm going to be against all of you. I have the same thing that you do. It's not any different.
Do you feel black?
African American?
African American.
Do I feel black? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
You know what it feels like to a certain extent to be white and Jewish more than you do being anything else, because that's what you've been raised with.
Yes.
So it just sounds like it was ripe. It was a great time for you to start saying, okay, if I knew my birth family, then I would know where I get certain characteristics from. It just makes sense. Where are your parents in all of this?
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade, Justice, in for another program to share constructive information on racism, white supremacy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the broadcast. I'll make some announcements once we are done with the program. I want to hop right to it. I found out about the documentary film Off and Running, non-Mighty Wick. I think we have quite a few listeners who are into documentary films, and I am too. I have watched quite a few. But yeah, this documentary film, Off and Running, really interesting story about transracial adoption. We've had quite a few programs where we have discussed this subject. We had Mark Riding on, black male, who is an adopted parent for a white female. We had Terry Kelleher, admitted racist, also gay white man. who adopted from the womb, said he was there at the hospital, adopted a black male child. We had Lisa Marie Rollins. She was on in February of 2010 with AFAD, and she is a black female, and she was adopted by white parents. So very interesting subject matter. Always offers, I think, a lot of, really interesting, just fascinating insight about how racism works. The star of the film, the feature of the film, the black female who was adopted by the two white Jewish lesbians in the film Off and Running, joining us live for the program. Real pleasure to have her on the program, Miss Avery Klein-Cloud. Miss Klein-Cloud, you are with us. I'm hitting your line now. You are with us?
I am. I'm here.
Outstanding. So good to hear from you.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. I guess to get started, before we hop into the film, is there anything you would like to share with listeners that you think it's important that they know about you before we hop into discussion of the film and what you've experienced?
Sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are probably some people that haven't seen the film, so I guess I can give a little background. I'm adopted from Texas, and I have two lesbian white parents. I was also raised Jewish, and I have an older brother who's 3 months older than me, who's a mix of black and Puerto Rican, who's a senior at Princeton, and I have a younger brother who's 10 years old, who's Korean and adopted from Queens. A very diverse, unique family. I've been running track since I was 6 years old, a humongous part of my life, and I've had a rough teenage years, but I made it through. So I guess that's about the overview that I can give you.
Wow, okay. Groovy, and we will get more details as we roll, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
You are a black female, as we've already stated.
Yes.
This program, the C.O.W.S, Context of White Supremacy, I have unfortunately concluded that we are in a global system of racism, white supremacy. I use those two terms as synonyms. I have the exact same definition for both terms. That definition is as follows: a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you believe that such a system exists, and do you think that definition is accurate?
I do think that's the accurate definition of white supremacy. Have I ever experienced it? Luckily, not really. Not to an extreme level, but I do agree that is the definition, yes.
Okay. Do you think that white people have more power than all of the non-white people on the planet, like collectively? Do you think that that's true, that white people collectively have more power than the non-white people on the planet right now?
Yes, unfortunately, yes, I do have to agree. I do.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I like. When I say racism, white supremacy, that's what I'm talking about, not so much individual acts, but the global system that is responsible for why white people have more power collectively than non-white people. Beautiful. Okie dokie. Wow, so you've already told us adopted from Texas. At what age were you adopted by your white female parents?
I was 3 weeks old.
3 weeks old. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Growing up, what was it like growing up in this household? And again, you have two other adopted siblings who are also not white, keeping that in mind for listeners. What was it like growing up in this household?
I'm pretty sure it was definitely different than it would have been being raised in a black household. But I can't say that it was bad. You know, have you seen the whole film?
Oh, several times, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can see my parents are very loving parents, very involved parents. Even when I was going through struggles where we didn't see eye to eye, I still went to them for advice. So my childhood was definitely an intense one, a great one, but intense. My parents are very big on studies, so that was the number one priority. And being a track athlete that was pretty good for my age, that was a big focus also. So we didn't have the funnest childhood. We didn't have tons of sleepovers and everything like that most of my classmates had. But, we had a very good life. We had a stable life, a healthy life. Luckily, well, I don't know if it was a good or a bad thing. I think it was a mixture. We never really dealt with racism because of the schools we went to. We went to a public school that was based in our community, which was, a very mixed community. So we never dealt with any racism there. And from 2nd grade through 8th grade, we went to a Jewish day school that was a very relaxed Jewish day school where some of the teachers were gay and other kids were adopted. Not African American, but there were other Asians that went to the school that were adopted. So I never really dealt with racism as a child. It was high school where it became hard, and it wasn't even racism really. So I had a very good childhood, but I got lucky that I didn't have to deal with racism. I got lucky in that sense, but it was also a bad experience because we lived in a bubble, and we weren't really exposed to the real world until much later.
Wow. Context of white supremacy. I just want to rewind. I thought that was fascinating. You were saying that you didn't really experience a lot of racism growing up. You lived in a bubble. You said that you're from 2nd grade. Was it 2nd grade through 9th grade or 2nd through
8th grade until high school?
Until high school. Okay. That you were at a very relaxed Jewish school. Where I think you said you had gay teachers, not necessarily black students. Were there other black students
at my the middle school?
The 2nd through 8th.
2nd to 8th grade.
Yes, ma'am.
There were not. It was just me, my brother, and one other kid.
Wow.
Double whammy.
Do you think the fact that you were at this school and you and your I don't know, does your brother Rafi, does he identify as black, or because I don't want to be disrespectful?
He doesn't really define himself as anything. He knows that he is black. He knows that he is Puerto Rican, but he defines himself as Rafi. That's who he sees himself. That's his name, Rafi. That's how he defines himself. He doesn't define himself by what he looks like, which works for him because, frankly, this is my opinion, not his, but frankly, he went from bubble to bubble to bubble. He went to, the Jewish day school where we were in a bubble to Brooklyn Tech, which is a humongous school in Brooklyn that has 5,000 kids where there's everything. So that's a whole nother bubble. And then he went to Princeton, which is a whole nother type of bubble. So he's never ever dealt with racism. So he's never been forced to figure out who he is, who he identifies himself as. Frankly, that's my opinion. So he just sees himself as Rafi. I've asked him, what do you identify with yourself as? And he's I identify myself with me. I know, I know what I look like on the outside. I know what I am, but I still identify as me. I don't identify by a color. So that's how he sees it.
Wow. I think that's fascinating. For folks who are listening, you should really try to listen at Blog Talk because the pictures that are included with the descriptions are very informative. And I think the photograph for today's program, it's a photo of Avery Klein-Cloud and her adopted white parents. You can see Rafi if you are her brother Rafi. If you're at Blog Talk, he is the young man to the far right in the yellow T-shirt. That would be Rafi. And her other younger adopted sibling is sitting on her lap, also not white. But looking at the photograph, it really stood out to me. I think Rafi, one of his parents, is not black, and Rafi is significantly lighter than you are. Is that correct? Okay. I think that's very significant.
That's a huge factor as well. He kind of can fit in anywhere. he can go both ways. I mean, I fit in everywhere also because of my personality. I'm kind of accepted in every group. But that also, I think, helped him through his lifestyle. Like, he could kind of shimmy into either group with much better flow than I could. So I think that's also a factor to why he hasn't dealt with the identity, not even the identity crisis, just like figuring out what he identified as.
Wow. Would it be an accurate statement to say that your brother Rafi, white people treat him better than you? Would that be an accurate statement?
No, because I've never dealt with racism. I've never dealt with anybody. I've never dealt with anyone. I've never been subjected to it. I've never been subjected to a white person treating me badly at all, really. I've never dealt with it. I guess I've never met the wrong people. There's only been a few times at a few screenings where I've had some white people get up and say some absurd things. But in my real world, within my life, I've never been subjected to racism, really, luckily.
What, if you recall, the few times at the screenings where I guess a white person said something that may have been racist or said something rude, what did they say?
One person said, the one I will remember forever was, I would like you much better in this film if you were white.
Double whammy.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Neither did I. So I said, honestly, sir, I don't think that this film has anything to do with whether I'm white or black. So I'm not sure if that was relevant to this film. And if that's what you got out of the film, I think you should probably rewatch it.
Wow. Actually, I take that back. Sorry. I am victimized. I'm a little slow sometimes. The codified response to that, I think, is, that sounds like something a racist would say. Maybe ask the question, are you a racist? Was it a sir? Was it a male who said this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Are you a racist, sir? And just, see what he says. What did anyone else make comments that you felt were maybe racist during the screenings?
Not so much. I mean, I've had racism, from black people towards my parents. I have had that. Like after the Q&A, some people kind of take out of it that my parents treated my brother better. And so they'll take out of it as, they probably appreciated him more because he's lighter than you. And, I mean, I guess I can see how people can get that out of it, but they never treated him better than they treated me. I just had more issues than he had at that time in my life that they didn't know how to deal with.
Wow, fascinating, fascinating. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss the point about the school. 2nd grade through 8th grade, you said it was a pretty relaxed environment. You and your brother Rafi, the only black students at the school, gay teachers, and you said there were some so-called Asian students. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, mostly white students, though.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's so interesting. So interesting. Did anyone ever question, you being a black female, saying, why are you here? You're not Jewish. Did anything like that ever come up?
Well, I was Jewish, so that was never, we were raised Jewish. So no, we were never questioned. I mean, also, since it was such a small school, we were kind of with the same kids from the time we were 3rd grade. We basically were with those same kids until we graduated from middle school. So they knew. Like, it was kind of like to the point where you started thinking about the fact that I'm black and Jewish. Like, they already knew me so well that they knew why I was adopted. They knew why I was there. So there was never a point in asking the question. By the time you hit, like, 5th or 6th grade, when you started to make the connection that I looked different and, you don't see any other black people here, by the point in our life where that time came, we were so close to each other, there was just no point in them asking. So maybe if I had joined the school in 6th grade, then there would have been questions, but because I had already been there from a younger age, there were no questions asked.
It's interesting. I wanted to figure out what happened at high school, because you said it seemed like things changed a bit there. But I did want to make one observation. You said you feel like your brother Rafi, he's lighter complexion, that he maybe has an easier time being accepted in different settings. Maybe he has an easier time being accepted than you do because you're darker than he is. That seems to suggest that perhaps that is racism operating. If he's having an easier time being accepted in different groups because he's lighter than you are, that would seem to suggest racism. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but he was never accepted into a group that I was never accepted into. They were talking about my parents, like how my parents treated him. My parents treated us all the same. The only times they treated me differently from him is when I hit the age where they started worrying about the fact that I was a teenage girl. Then it became a little different, but that wasn't because of my race. It was because I was a teenage girl, and what parent doesn't freak out about that? But the people were addressing that to the way my parents treated him and the way my parents treated me, and that was never based off of our race, of what we look like. That was never based off of that. If he was ever accepted into a group that I wasn't, then yes, it probably would have been racism, but we've never had that situation happen. So I'm pretty sure if it would have, I would have taken it as racism, as my parents would have. My parents probably would have taken it also as racism, and they would have said something. So I definitely do agree with that statement if there was ever a situation like that.
Context of white supremacy. You said things changed. If I heard you correctly, things changed at high school, that perhaps racism did become more of an issue at high school. Is that accurate? And if so, what happened?
For high school, I did get into a few specialized high schools like my brother did, but I fell in love with this private school called Poly Prep Country Day School in Bay Ridge, right by the water, right by the Verrazano Bridge. I begged my parents, please let me go if I get in. And they said, if you get in, we will see what we can do. So I did get in. They had a very good team, and it was great academics, so my parents couldn't complain about that. And I helped out with the money by running Colgate Women's Games, which gives you scholarship money if you win. And it seemed great until I got there. About halfway through my freshman year, I was trying to run for the door and get out. Within the school, this is a very uppity, high class school. Like Meryl Streep's daughter goes there. Al Sharpton's kids went there. You can tell it's kind of a high level school, very upper class. And there was like a very small group of black kids in the school, and all of them except for a few were in a program called Prep for Prep. I was one of the few that was not, which is I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but it's a program that basically helps kids get a better education. It's a program for black kids to get a better education and more opportunities. And that's why most of those kids were in that school. Most of the black kids were. And there's probably about 30 black kids from the middle school and up, because the middle school and the high school is in the same building. And you were there, most of them were there for football or basketball or soccer, and there was a few of us that were there based off of our grades. So basically, high school became a tug of war. When I won MVP, Most Valuable Player for cross-country season, which is like 3 months into the first year of school, I got onto their radar because I'm a very quiet girl. I'm actually extremely, extremely loud and talkative. But when I'm in a new environment, I'm quiet and I observe. And especially because I didn't really feel comfortable around the black kids, I kind of kept to myself. My two best friends that I made there were black, Justin and Matt, and because we had like 5 classes together, so we were everywhere together anyway. And I became very close with them, but not with the whole group of African-American kids. And I kind of just jumped around everywhere, and it was fine. But then when I became on the radar for being an asset to the school, I kind of had to make a decision between hanging out with the black kids and hanging out with the white kids. And it became a very hard decision for me to make because I couldn't be with both.
Why did you feel that you had to make a decision? Like, did someone tell you that you couldn't hang out with both, or why did you feel like you had to make a choice?
It's an unsaid thing. It's unsaid. It's not like, you have to make a decision. It's not like that, but it's like, you know, if I was to go and have lunch with, you know, my white friends, the black kids would be like, oh, where were you at today? Like, why weren't you with us? And I'd be like, I was hanging out with them. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then the white kids would be like, hey, are you going to come to lunch with us today? I'm like, no, I'm going to go with them. And they're like, oh, okay. And it was awkward, like both groups. I mean, I understood why the black kids feel that way. We're such a small group, and we're always looked, like, within the school, like, if something was to go wrong between, you know, like a white kid and a black kid, we were always kind of judged for it. Not so much me, because most of the teachers knew my background, knew where I came from, and I was never in trouble anyway. But, like, if something was to go wrong with one of the black kids that had a sketchy background with the school, it was usually their fault. So it was kind of like, it was an unsaid thing, you know, where the black kids were like, you have to kind of make a decision of who you're going to be down with. Like, are you with us, or are you going to be jumping around with everyone? Because if you're jumping around with everyone, then, you know, like, you're going to be outside of this group also. And with all the white kids, it was like, they felt like I was deserting them by always hanging out with the black kids. So it was kind of like a pull from both sides, where I had to make a decision of what to do. And I ended up hanging out with the black kids because partially I also wanted to know what it's like being black. And so I made that decision, and it became really hard from there on, trying to, like, figure out who I was and dealing with trying to figure out how it was being, you know, around black kids all the time and being black, and trying to figure out how to fit in everywhere and have everybody accept me. So it was a very hard time during my life.
Wow. I actually have the sound clip. You are speaking with your counselor, at least at the time, Joy Lieberthal, in the film, just, you know, about the whole transracial adoption, and I just thought that was a really profound moment. I want to play that sound clip and see if you have got any further insight about what it means to be black.
Okay.
Lately, I've just been feeling really mixed up about what's been going on in my life. And I've decided to go speak to a counselor who's also transracially adopted. I just wanted to talk to somebody that I felt would connect and understand what I'm going through.
It's very disconcerting to not have answers about yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's the whole adage of you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the things that bothered me.
Do you feel black?
African American?
African American.
Do I feel black? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
You know what it feels like.
Context of White Supremacy, really a powerful moment in the film. Do you know what it means to be black at this point?
No, there's no definition for that. I'm sorry, but I thought that was one of the most ridiculous questions I've ever been asked to this day. What does that mean? Can you tell me what that means, Gus? Because I don't know what that means.
That is fantastic. I was cracking up laughing when this part of the film came. Cracking up laughing. And just for context, the counselor, Joy Lieberthal, that's her name, adoption counselor. She also apparently was adopted by white people, and she is non-black. I believe would be so-called Asian.
Korean.
Yeah. Korean. Okay. I thought that was also important context. But yeah, I have no idea. The best that I have been able to conclude is that under the system of white supremacy, racist white people decide who they are going to classify as black and who's going to be mistreated on that basis. That's the best that I've been able to come up with, because None of the other definitions make any sense. And I mean, that one, it's logical, it makes sense, and I see it manifested every day where white people make decisions about, is this person black or not? And they change their mind whenever they feel like it. And it's all about practicing racism. The whole point of this is about mistreatment. So that's the best that I've been able to conclude. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Does that make any sense to you?
It makes sense. I mean, frankly, to me, the question, do you feel black? It's either are you black or not? I mean, there is no in between. You're black or you're not black. I'm black. I know I'm black. I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm black. I know I'm black. You don't got to stare back at me and tell me I know I am. Was I raised white? Yes. But that doesn't make me white. I may have that in me. That's definitely a part of me, the way I was raised. That doesn't mean I'm white, I'm black. Do I feel black? I feel black, yes, because I am black. Do I feel white? No, I do feel like I identify with white people and the white side better than many black people in the world because of the way I was raised. But I don't feel white, I feel black because I am black. I know who I am. I know what I see when I stare in the mirror. I know what I identify with. I identify with being black or I identify with being part of my family. That's what I am. So, I mean, frankly, I mean, that wasn't really my counselor. I only met with her that one time. Nicole, the director, said, I think you should talk to somebody else that is adopted. And I was like, okay, I'm fine. I have no problem trying that out. And we tried it out, and I was like, I don't want to go back there for a second time. I really don't feel like I got anything out of that interview. I didn't get anything out of that counsel session. So I never went back. I understood that she was adopted by white people from a different culture, but it wasn't my culture. Like, she didn't necessarily understand what I was going through. Partially, I think, because she was Korean. She was not black. It's two completely different things. So, I didn't feel like it was a very useful segment.
Very interesting. I didn't know that the filmmaker, the white woman and admitted lesbian Nicole Opper, she suggested that you meet with Joy Lee. That's very interesting.
Well, it was a point where she just felt like I needed someone to talk to. And I definitely wanted someone to talk to. And frankly, having her there helped because she kind of did the work of finding someone for me to talk to. It just was the wrong person. And then, after that, I just said, you know what, I don't really know if I want to do this anymore. I don't think it's a good idea for me. I was the one that initiated that I wanted to speak to someone about it. I just think she found the wrong person for it.
What I'm thinking right now, I'll share what I'm thinking based on my understanding of racism, white supremacy. I do not believe it was an accident or a coincidence that Nicole Opper, white woman, admitted lesbian who produced this film, that she picked the wrong person for you as a counselor. I suspect that could have been a purposeful act of racism. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't think I can agree with that. But, I mean, just because I know her too well to think that she would, I don't think she didn't get anything out of it. If it was an attempt, it would have been a huge failure for her based on my reaction to the meeting. So I don't think that's ever been her intention at all. But, I mean, you never know also.
Never know. I could be wrong. Make sure I get that out. I have never met Nicole Opper, but I definitely will be requesting an interview with her. I would be real interested to ask her some questions. That would now be on my list, too, about the counseling session. I wanted to rewind back to get a clip because you had a reunion with some of the white classmates, some of your white classmates from your Jewish school, 2nd grade through 8th grade, and I thought there were some very interesting lines in that chunk of the film. I want to play that clip and kind of get your thoughts on it. This is Avery and some of her classmates at their reunion, and this is in the film Off and Running.
What's different about your high school compared to Hunter?
It sucks. There's no diversity at all except for one half black. No, wait, like 1/4 black.
Is that Lena?
No, there's another one. Actually.
That makes one full black person. You just combine them.
Anyway,
Yes.
back to the high school thing.
Right. And now I go to Erasmus. Erasmus is definitely different because there isn't a single white kid in the school.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. The only white people are the teachers. But most of them. What?
Do you feel safe?
I feel perfectly safe. The teachers are really cool. Like they all listen to Rastafari music and so good. So.
Guys, I gotta go.
You gotta go. I was about to say that. It's 5:41.
I've gotta go. See you guys later.
It's a lot of pressure. I was the only black kid in my class, and they always look to you at how do you feel about that, and I'm like, you're asking the wrong person. Like I'm just like the rest of you. I'm raised in a white family. I don't have like an opinion where I'm going to be against all of you. I have the same thing that you do. It's not any different.
Context of White Supremacy. I wanted to ask you about 3 lines from that conversation. The comment that makes one full black person. That was one sentence. The sentence "power to the people." Not when you repeated it, but when the gentleman made the statement. And the question: do you feel safe? I think the same person did the same person make all of those statements and that last question.
No, I think he might have made the "power to the people" and the "do you feel safe" one.
Okay. Those 3, the first statement, one full black person. What are your thoughts about that statement in the context of when it was brought up? The person's, I think it was a female. She said that we don't have any diversity. We only have one person who's a quarter black, and I think another person who's half black. And the response was that makes one full black person.
Yeah, that was the guy that said the one full black person. Because I know these kids. I know that there's no offense intended, and I know it's like a joke between us that we've always made. We have all been raised in such a bubble that, like, most of those kids went right into another bubble, and I was the most diversity that they knew. And frankly, I think it's great that they're able to interact with me that way because they know we know that they can't ever go up to another black person and say something like that. They probably get slapped because it's offensive. But they can do that with me because they know me. And, I'm happy that they can interact with me that way and that they never mean offense by it. The power to the people was just a little random. So I was like, power to the people. Like, what are you saying? Like, it's ridiculous. But okay, like, go with it. And that's Michael. Michael's a little sarcastic, and he's a very smart guy, which is kind of a downfall for him, I think, sometimes. But the power to the people comment was a little bit random, but that is kind of Michael also. That is kind of how he just talks. The fact that it makes one whole black person, I can only find that funny because it's probably so true. Like, okay, you have, like, if you combine it, we've got, like, one black person. So we have just, like, a little bit of diversity in our school. So with them, it's like a joke. If someone random said that to me, it would probably be a problem because I know these kids. It's like, okay, all right, joking time, I see it. But if it was a random person, I would have been offended.
I'm not insulting your intelligence. I'm just checking to make sure you're aware of the 3/5 compromise and black people not being thought of as full people. You're aware of all that, right?
No, I understand it. That's why if it was someone else, it would have been a problem. But not with these kids because I know that they never mean any offense in that way.
Okay. But you could see how someone who doesn't know these people, could say, wow, that sounds like someone making a racist comment saying that makes one full black. You could see how someone could conclude that.
Yeah, which is why you have to see it in the context of they know me, and we went to school together for 6 years. So, I mean, that's why in that context, it doesn't seem so horrible. If it was a random thing that was said, then I'd be pretty curious if I was someone else walking by and I heard that statement.
Okay. I'm the random person in this, the random black person in this. What about that last one, the question, do you feel safe? And the context of that question when you're commenting about your new school for high school, that lots of black people, not that many white people, the question, do you feel safe?
Yeah, it's kind of like, if it had been 3 years beforehand, I wouldn't have felt safe going to that school. I wouldn't have felt safe because the world that we live in, you turn on the news and it's always some black guy shooting up a store, or another black woman got killed by her crazy ex-boyfriend. We're all black. So it's like, you know, they tell you don't go into certain neighborhoods at night because you'll get robbed, because the Bloods and the Crips are there and such and such. So it's like, for them, that's a typical question, like, do you feel safe there? And if it had been 3 years earlier, I would have been like, hell no, I don't feel safe there. But at that point in my life, I did feel safe. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I don't think I was racist at one point in my life, but I was uncomfortable because of the way black people were portrayed to me when I was younger. If I saw a black guy in my neighborhood, like, I'd cross the street and be like, what is he doing over here? And that's when I was like 8 or 9, because I wasn't raised around black people. And you turn on the news, and black people are always doing some crazy stuff on the news. Like, it's always us. And in my opinion, yeah, that's definitely racism on the news part. But, you know, I don't know if you're seeing what I'm saying, but, like, hearing them ask me, do I feel safe there? To me, I would ask one of my friends the same thing if they came in the situation like where I came from to where I went to. I would ask them too. Do you feel safe there out of curiosity? Like, do you feel safe going there? Like, would I be okay if I went there? Questions like that, because of the way that we're portrayed. Black people are portrayed as a violent group to the public world. That's how we're portrayed in the United States. So, to me, it's a valid question.
Double whammy.
Wow. That is, I totally understand what you're saying. Totally understand what you're saying, and I agree. I think it's more than just the news. I think it's all over the place. It's in books. We just had a white author on the program who writes books depicting black people as gold-tooth raping looters. So it's not just the news, in my opinion. It is the total system of white supremacy.
It's also personal interactions as well. I remember us coming out of my school one day. We're in Brooklyn Heights, right by Court Street. I don't know if you know the area. And like some black, and that's the thing. Like there was another girl in my class who was half black. Her name was Lena. Like, we were coming out of our school or whatever, we're going into a bagel store, and one girl, like, bumped into one of my other classmates. And Lena said, watch where you're going. And it was to a bunch of black girls who were a little bigger than us. And it was like a group of us guys and girls. Most of us are smaller than them. I was a giant to them because I was like 5'7" when I was in 6th grade. I was humongous. I was a giant. But everybody else was much smaller than me. And, like, these black girls were ready to, like, and they had some of their guy friends ready. They were ready to fight us. And I'm, like, the sane one saying, like, yo, my Hanukkah-ish Jewish kids, relax and walk away. Right now you need to relax and walk away because you're all about to get your butts whooped. So let's consider this in our heads right now and let's calmly walk away. Not because we're white and they're black, but because we come from a little bubble where the most fight we've ever gotten into is like a playful cat fight. Just walk away. And it got to the point where, like, they started hitting Lena. And, like, I was like, Lena, you need to start running. Like, run, please. And everybody run with them because you don't know how to, like, that's a personal interaction right there where they were scared. Like, they were scared of black people. And I wasn't scared. One, because I think I had a track team of African American kids, so I was cool with it. Like, I understand situations like that. Like, that's a time where you don't need to be there. Move. Like, you're picking up with the wrong people. Don't start a fight with these people. And, like, she didn't see that because she thinks she's hot stuff. And she thinks she's hot stuff because she was like, me and her were the black kids in our school, and we were the tough kids. We were. Like, I was just tough because I'm a tough person. But she took that as, like, well, I'm black, so I'm tough, so nobody messes with me in this school. Well, the problem is when you step outside into the school, you're not tough, sweetie. We live in a little bubble, you know? So it's like that was a bad interaction for them when we were in 7th grade with African Americans. Like, that was a bad situation that they remember to this day, because there was, like, when they weren't shooting it, we were talking about it. We were all in a group, and I was like, do you guys remember that day? And they're like, yeah, that was a scary time. And I'm like, right, all black people aren't like that. It's just certain groups. And the ones that want to pick a fight with you in the middle of the street over someone loving someone are the type of people you want to avoid, regardless of what race it is. So for them, like, they've had, you know, a scary interaction with black kids, which makes them question, do you feel safe where you are? You see what I'm saying?
I've had a lot of scary interactions with white people.
Right, we never have. Because, again, we're from a bubble world.
Context of White Supremacy. I definitely wanted to ask about the film. I'm curious, has your biological mom seen the film? And have you all dialogued?
I have no idea.
Wow.
I have no idea she's seen it.
Wow. Have you had contact with her since the film came out?
No, I have not.
Wow. That's tough. Yeah. Wow. Definitely wanted to ask with the film, because, as I said, I have seen it, you know, several times, and that is a major part of the film. In fact, I want to make sure I share. This is an article. I wanted to share this earlier, and I want to make sure I get it in now because I think it's relevant. And Ian, we can get your thoughts. This was one of the reviews from Off and Running. This is published. The title of the article is "The Third Mom." It's in gaycitynews.com. They did a review for the film. This came out January 21st, 2010, gaycitynews.com. I'll link it. The title of the article is "The Third Mom." The Third Mom. And the quote is from the filmmaker, white woman, admitted lesbian, Nicole Opper. She says, direct quote, "I saw this strong interracial family with lesbian moms, but it was a discovery for me to see how deep these issues of race were going to influence the story." The filmmaker explained, "Religious identity plays a role, but it was never a conflict for Avery, nor were her parents' sexual identity. Race was the key. It trumped all, and I wasn't prepared for that." Direct quote from the filmmaker, Nicole Opper. What do you think about those comments?
I definitely think that's true. I definitely have to agree with her there.
For anyone who has not seen the film, I highly recommend it, and I would agree. Race just from the sound clips that you've heard thus far, that's just a sample. I would highly recommend folks checking it out. The fact that she said, she wasn't prepared for how much race was going to be a factor. Did your adopted parents, did you all talk about that? Did you all talk about how much, of a factor race was becoming in the shooting?
No. My parents did not want to have anything to. They really didn't want to have anything to do with the shooting. They didn't want to be in the film at all, frankly. They're not big on being on camera. They really just agreed to do this for me. I think my parents didn't really get what was going on with me in high school during the time I was trying to figure out where I fit in racially. They didn't understand what was going on. They thought I was over-exaggerating what was going on with me. They just thought I was being like a crazy, rebellious teenager. Which I mean, of course, yes, I was being a rebellious, crazy teenager, but that wasn't. I was being that way for a certain reason, which they didn't get. I do think that it was a shock for Nicole to realize, the kind of racial issues that were going to be put into the film. The film itself went into a completely different direction than she thought it was ever going to go into when she first started. So it was kind of like a shock for everybody that was involved to see how it was going to go.
What was the filmmaker, Nicole Opper, what was her original vision for Off and Running?
There wasn't a vision because she just wanted to see what it's like for herself, because she does want to potentially adopt one day, and she's a Jewish lesbian woman herself. She wanted to see what life was going to be like for us. The years that she knew me, because she was my film teacher from 5th grade to 8th grade, the after-school film teacher at Chana Fenish, the Jewish day school I was at. That's how we met. And, she wanted to make a film based off of that, based off of the years that she knew me. We were a very happy family. I didn't have any issues. She thought it was going to be like showing that this family was like any other family. Of course, everybody has identity issues, but no one ever expected me to leave home. No one ever expected it to get so bad that I didn't talk to my parents for a while. That was unexpected for basically everyone in my life that knew me. No one ever saw me leaving my house. Nobody ever saw me walking out. And so that was very hard for her to watch because she was in front of the families. No one ever expected it to get so extreme and for me to go on such a downward spiral. And that I was going to deal with racial issues that way. No one saw that coming, really. So it was a shock for everyone, including myself, frankly. It was a shock to me as well. So that's what I think she means by she didn't expect it to be like that.
Wow. I want to see if I can kind of summarize in my head to make sure that I'm clearly understanding this. I want to give a brief summary, and then you can tell me if I'm clearly understanding what you said and what I saw in the film. Would it be correct to say Nicole Opper, the white woman, lesbian who put the film together? She knew you from the Jewish school that you attended. She met you there. She as a lesbian, she's interested in adopting herself. She saw you there. She's thinking about adopting, decided she would do some more investigating of your experience, do some filming, make a documentary out of your experience, and at the same time she can do some own researching to kind of see what she will be experiencing when she decides to adopt. Perhaps she's thinking of doing some sort of transracial adoption, and during the course of the film, race becomes the dominant issue in what's happening, and specifically when race becomes the dominant issue is when you attempt to make contact with your biological mom, black female.
It was before that. It started when I was in high school, my freshman year in high school. That's when my racial issues began. I started looking for my birth mom when I was a sophomore in high school. So about a year later.
Okay. So I guess just so I can be clear, what started the racial issues in the 9th grade? Was it high school or?
It was high school. I was trying to fit in with both groups. I was trying to fit into both groups without offending anyone. I was trying to fit into both groups and learning the black culture. I was learning black culture my freshman year, my whole high school. I'm still learning it. So it was just so much to take on all at once. It was too much for me to deal with. And then trying to find my birth mom was just my trigger. That was how you can handle certain stuff up to a certain point? That's where I was at. And finding my birth mom and having her reject me just pushed me over the edge. That was it for me. I was gone.
In the film, it seemed that when you attempted to find your birth mom, that triggered a significant amount of conflict between you and your adopted white parents. Do you think that conflict would have been reduced if your biological mom was a white person?
No. Not at all.
Okay. Very interesting. How did you, it seemed like you were pretty confident that your biological parents were upset or had some conflict around you attempting to find your biological mom. Do you still think that your perception of that was accurate?
Yes. I did. One of my moms did later inform me that just what I was going through on my own, I basically halfway through my freshman year would come home, not speak to anybody, not eat anything, go up to my room, close the door, and not come out. And my grades just began slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping. My junior year, I was still in contact. At the beginning of my junior year, I was still in contact with my birth mom. But I had kind of cut my parents off because they didn't understand what I was going through. One thing with the black community, with any community really, is image. If you don't look right, people are going to look at you funny. Am I not right? So, for me, the way my parents had me dressed and the way my parents had my hair, I looked like a boy my whole life, to the point where it completely destroyed my self-esteem level. I was very uncomfortable within my own body. And my parents just didn't understand, but I would say, can I please go get my hair done? Can I please get my hair done? I need to get my hair done. Please, can I please just wear some different type of clothes? I'm not asking to wear, like, booty shorts and have everything I got hanging out, but can I please just change my style a little bit? And they're like, no, you look fine the way you are. They didn't understand that I was becoming depressed because I was being laughed at school behind my back. Everyone loved me too much to ever say something to hurt my feelings, but I have ears. I can hear what's said behind my back. Or when I'm walking down the hallway and you don't know I'm coming into the hallway and you say something and I hear it. So I was basically just about done with my parents because I kept trying to explain to them, like, I'm so unhappy, please. To the point where I cut them off. And I cut them off while I was still searching for my birth mom. I had written the first letter, but I wasn't in contact with her yet. I didn't become in contact with her until the summertime before my junior year. And I just stopped talking to them about the issues because they weren't listening to me. They weren't getting it. They weren't understanding that, please just let me change a few things. And since I stopped talking to them, and then my birth mom finally contacted me back and I was talking to her, one of them told me later that she felt like I was replacing them because she wasn't being a good enough mother. And I explained to her, I'm like, it was never about that. You guys are my mommies. You raised me. I love you guys. But you just weren't listening to my issues. There was nothing else for us to talk about. You weren't listening to me. There was nothing left to be said about my issues. So I stopped talking to you about them, and I closed myself off. I shut down. So I'm like, I understand if you feel like offended that I'm looking for my birth mom. I'm not looking for her because you guys aren't being good parents. I'm looking for her because I need to find her for myself. I want to know my background. I want to know if I'm American, if I'm from Africa, if I'm from, Bermuda, Jamaica, wherever I'm from. I want to know that. I want to know about my birth. I want to know if I have siblings. I want to know these things. That has nothing to do with whether you're good parents or not. But that's how they were feeling at the time. They felt like I was replacing them. And so they had issues with that.
Context of White Supremacy, privilege. Our guest for the evening, Avery Klein-Cloud. Thoroughly enjoying the program. I just wanted to rewind and take one moment, Dr. Welsing moment for sure. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, author of the ISIS Papers. I just had about a 90-minute conversation with Dr. Welsing yesterday about the film Revenge of the Nerds. I'm going to buy her the DVD, and she should be coming on the program next week to chat about Revenge of the Nerds. But at any rate, I just wanted to rewind. That was really important, the conflict that you were addressing with regards to growing up, and you felt like your white lesbian parents, your adopted white lesbian parents, they were not allowing you to dress in a more feminine manner. You felt like they had you looking like a male. Is that accurate? Am I misquoting you?
Yeah, I had a very short haircut, and so I was mistaken for a boy all the time. They didn't believe in tight clothing, which is fine. I wasn't trying to look like, I wasn't trying to wear overly tight clothing. But I mean, if you've seen the film, you've seen how they dress. Image is not very important to them. So they didn't really understand why it was so important to me.
That is interesting. That is very interesting. Wow. And your white adopted parents, they did not discuss racism with you. Is that correct?
Well, during that time, no, they just didn't discuss any of my issues at all. They didn't discuss they didn't understand what I was going through, trying to identify with my black culture and being cool with the white kids at the same time. They didn't understand the image issues I was going through. They just didn't see eye to eye with me. They didn't understand why they would listen to me, but they didn't understand why it was such a big deal to me.
I just want to ask and see if this makes logical sense. To me, it is not an accident. It's not a coincidence that two females who identify as lesbian would not understand a female who needs to identify as a female. That it just is not surprising to me at all. Does that make sense to you?
In a way, yes.
Okay. There was a part in the film where you invited some of your black friends. I guess you were cooking and you had like a dinner and everything. And it seemed like your white adopted parents were not very comfortable. In fact, I think it was Travis. She said that she was in a cranky mood and she apologized and kind of left hastily. I don't know. Do you think that had anything to do with you having all these black people at the house or no?
Do I feel like what?
Do you think your adopted parents being in kind of a cranky mood, at least that's what I think Travis, that's what she said on camera, that she was in a cranky mood. Do you think that had anything to do with, you having a lot of these black people at the house at a time where you were looking for your adopted mom, or your biological mom?
No, I mean, it was just a really bad day. There were before my friends got there were just huge fights going on in the house between kind of everyone. So my parents were just furious. But I had planned this dinner from before. It was Valentine's Day that I had planned from a month ahead of time. And everyone kind of just forgot about this plan until the day of, where I was like, okay, I'm going to Key Food to get all this stuff. And then my parents were like, one of my moms remembered, Tova, the short one did. And she was like, yeah, go ahead. And Travis was like, what? No, I want a quiet, peaceful day. I don't want all these kids in the house. I want to relax. And I'm like, I planned this for a month. You guys do. It's not my fault. And that led to a huge argument between my parents because I was like, this isn't my fault. I told you guys, this is your communication issue, not mine. So then they had an argument about it. And Tova was like, you have to let her have this thing. She already planned it. You can't cancel it. And, when two parents fight, that's never good. Then they're going to be pissed for the whole day and whoever until they fix it. And then they got into an argument with my older brother. So they were just unhappy with the fact that the whole day was horrible. And then what really made it worse was because they were in such a bad mood, they came downstairs and were mumbling and grumbling around. So the kids were like, yo, is it an issue that we're here? And I'm like, no, it's not, you guys. It's just there was a huge fight earlier. They're in a bad mood. So that did affect it. They were supposed to be able to stay until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and hang out and everything, but because they were in such a bad mood, by 11 o'clock, they were like, okay, everybody has to be out. So it kind of ruined the whole day, but it wasn't because of the racial issue. It was just because it was a bad day for everybody.
Interesting. Actually, I want to take a quick commercial. I have a couple questions, and then a lot of folks called in. So if it's acceptable, we can take a few calls. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. Context of White Supremacy and our guest, Miss Avery Klein-Cloud. We'll be right back.
Okay. Is racism hurting you? on issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity. Using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Yeah, all righty. Context of White Supremacy. The filmmaker, Nicole Opper, white woman, admitted lesbian, she put this film together. I wanted to play a couple clips because it seems this film, I'm just looking at the front cover for Off and Running, an American coming-of-age story. The front cover, at the very top, an amazing story about adoption, families, love, and perseverance. Beautiful, honest, inspiring. I recommend that everybody sees it. That is from Rosie O'Donnell. She is also an admitted lesbian, the filmmaker, admitted lesbian, to white parents who are also lesbian. They actually get married in the film. I wanted to play this clip and then ask you about that aspect of the film. This is a couple segments. It is her adopted, Avery, her adopted parents. As I said, they get married, and this is a segment around that portion of the film where her adopted parents are getting married.
This is 13 WHAM News at 6.
Same-sex marriages performed elsewhere are now legal in New York.
But as this couple and others will tell you, there is more to be done.
This decision basically recognizes a marriage in another state or a country, say Canada or Massachusetts, here in New York. It doesn't mean that same-sex marriages can be performed legally here in the state.
People will say things about gay people and stuff, and I'll get all defensive. And they'll wonder why I'm so opinionated about the subject, but I guess I don't feel like they deserve to know. I'm just someone standing up for what I believe is right, which is a little different than being personally connected and then trying to defend what you're related to.
I am very much for gay marriage. There's nothing wrong with people of the same sex getting married. If you love someone, you love someone. You cannot help who you love. Nobody should dictate who people should get married to, who they should love, and how.
Again, that is from the documentary film Off and Running. You just heard from our guest, Avery Klein-Cloud. You heard her brother, Rafi, speaking as well. In the news segment, they were watching television when this news clip came on, and they were talking about the new rules and regulations around so-called gay marriage. This film seems to be advocating, promoting in a not subtle manner the lesbian lifestyle, homosexual lifestyle. What are your views on that?
My views on gay marriage?
Or just the film. Do you think that's accurate, the film being used to promote homosexual lifestyle, lesbian adoption, lesbian marriage? What do you think about the film being used to? I'm sorry?
Not at all, because it's a big, not at all. I don't think is a problem at all, because it's a big part of our family life. It's a big part of, what we all believe in, what I believe in as an individual, as my brother believes in, and my parents. It's a big part of our life, and it's a big part of Nicole, the director's life. So it was important to her, and it was important to my parents. and to me to express that, it's a part of our life, and it's a part of our life that we're very proud of.
That comes across in the film, and it's interesting, and I would have to say for myself, it's troubling in a film that the director herself says race is the dominant issue here. When I watch this film, what I see being promoted in the most dominant, explicit manner is not, let's fix the problem of racism. It's let's make sure that we're supportive of the homosexual lifestyle. Again, Rosie O'Donnell, she's admitted lesbian, very top of the DVD cover. The family, lesbians, they get married in the, that's way significant. Underline that, highlight that. They get married in the middle of this documentary film. Not that that's not important, but very significant in promoting, this lifestyle and saying that this is something that we should make sure that we support. I just find that very interesting that I did not see that same sort of loud, explicit, hey, racism, big problem, we should be against that. Does what I'm saying, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, but I didn't really experience racism. So it was more of just figuring out who I was and dealing with my racial identity issue. I was never subjected to racism. If I had been, it probably would have been a huge part of the film. That's why my racial identity crisis was, because it was a huge part of my life at the time. If I had been subjected to any type of racism, it would have been a much bigger part of the film.
Okay. You talked early on about how important media and images and how those images are so powerful and the messages that they convey and how a lot of people, particularly people who live in a quote-unquote bubble, who don't have access or they don't have a lot of contact with non-white people and how that can shape their opinions about non-white people. Even for other non-white people, these images can have a big impact on how non-white people feel about one another. You said yourself that you were, kind of scared of being around black people, and I don't think that's, I think a lot of non-white people feel that way because of images. I wanted to share my thoughts on the film and kind of get your response, get some feedback from you. I think one could watch this film and come away with very disturbing notions about black people. You're watching a film. It hits on some really old and tired racist cliches and stereotypes about black people. You have the stereotype of black people not taking care of their children, with a black female giving up her child for adoption. She has 4-5 other children. You have a black female who gets pregnant, a teenage pregnancy from a black female. She gets an abortion. Those are a lot of the very old, tired stereotypes that racists have had about black females, just being promiscuous and having all these illegitimate children, welfare queen, blah blah blah. I'm not saying that's you, but that's the racist white supremacist stereotype that has been promoted. You have the white people who come in, save the day, are super supportive, willing to do everything that they can to take care of this child, a la the missionary, almost. It's very I think it could be very dangerous. You have Rafi, who's going to Princeton. He's doing all these great things. He's lighter complexion, so you see the darkest person in the film, having an abortion, getting pregnant as a teenager, dropping out of school, having all these problems. Everyone else, what's going on? We're trying to do everything we can to help her, and she's having all these problems and issues. I could see it being very dangerous. You get in the film explicitly, I don't know what it means to be black. That's not really resolved. It makes it seem like, and I think this is really important. I want to make sure I take my time to try to be clear. I think the fact that a lot of the conflict in the film revolves around that you seeking contact with your biological mom, who's a black female. I think that in conjunction with you leaving the house and in the film getting pregnant and having the abortion, I think one could leave saying, wow, when she associates with black people, pregnancy, abortion, dropping out of school, not doing well, making an effort to associate with black people, even all of this being triggered by you attempting to contact your biological mom who's a black female. I could see how someone could watch this and maybe even subconsciously conclude, wow, black people associating with black people, making an attempt to be in contact with black people is a bad thing. Stay away from them. Does that make sense? Am I making that up? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I guess how people can see that out of the film.
Okay. And I'm curious, listeners, folks listening in, if you've seen the film, I would be interested in hearing your thoughts on that as well. Even with the title, it's interesting because it's Off and Running, an American coming of age story, which is interesting because they don't reference you or Rafi or your younger adopted brother. They don't reference you all as Americans. They reference you as an African American or black. I saw Rafi referenced as Hispanic, and your youngest brother as Korean, not American. It's very interesting, and I'm real interested in speaking with Nicole Opper because it just I could see how someone could watch this and come away with a very low opinion of black people. And even, hey, maybe you should stay away from black people. If she hadn't made an attempt to contact her black biological mom, none of this conflict would have happened. It messed up a happy family, her making an effort to contact her black biological mom. I could see how someone could walk away with that impression. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I also, before I went to the phone lines, I also wanted to ask. You said that you felt like because you were raised with white, parents, that you identify with white people. Do you, as a black female, do you feel that white people identify with you?
All the ones that I've met, yes. I've never been subjected to anything other than great interactions. I don't think I've never put myself in a situation where I'd have a bad interaction. I'm 21, so I haven't dealt with workplace interactions of what we've always been taught. There is racism within the workplace world, and I haven't really been put into that world yet. So do I plan on experiencing some racism in my life? Oh, yes. I'm pretty sure this is just the beginning. But at this point in my life, school-wise, I haven't. School-wise in my regular everyday life, I haven't. But I'm pretty sure if you contact me in 10 years from now, I'll have a different story for you.
Wow. Do you think you'll be able to talk with your adopted parents about, these upcoming racist episodes?
Oh, yeah. And we'll probably get a kick out of it.
Context of White Supremacy. As I said, we do have quite a few folks that dialed in. Are you cool with taking some phone calls?
Sure.
Groovy. If you are interested in asking a question, if you press 1, I can get your line. Person who called in from a blocked number, your line is open. Do you have a question?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for taking my call. The question is for your guest. From what I heard is that she was raised by a lesbian couple. White yes. Lesbian couple, okay. From talking with Gus and learning about racism, do you suspect that your adopted parents could be programmed to be racist as well?
Programmed? I think everyone is capable of being programmed to be racist. Do I think they were? No.
Okay. Thank you for taking my call.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Other person who called in from a blocked number, did you have a question for Miss Avery Klein-Cloud.
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Hi.
Hello, Avery, and hello to you, Gus, and to the other callers out there. I have a two-part question, if that's okay with you, Gus.
Take your time.
Okay. The first thing that I'd like to ask, Avery, you're still in school, right? Are you still in college?
I am current. I am not this year, but I will be attending this fall. I'm switching schools.
Okay, because I remember in the program you were going to Delaware State at HBCU. Have you continued there, or are you switching to a predominant?
I left. I left. I did a year there, and I am leaving.
Okay, so could I ask what school you will be attending?
I'm not sure yet. There are four choices: Farley Dickinson University in New Jersey, SUNY University at Albany in New York, University of Maryland, or Grambling University in Louisiana.
The last two are pretty good choices because I'm a grad of University of Maryland and my husband is from Grambling State. So those would be good choices. But, okay, I digress. Let me ask my question that I came on initially. Have you ever engaged in sexual relationships with a white person or in a lesbian relationship? Have you ever engaged in any of those?
I have not. I've dated a white guy, but we were never sexual. And although I tried to pull the lesbian card on my parents once so my boyfriend could come on a trip with us, it didn't work. My parents will never think I'm a lesbian, and honestly, I am far from it.
So you've never had any sexual relations with any person of the same sex?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Well, Gus, I'm going to let the other callers get a chance to get in and answer their questions.
Okie dokie. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you.
For sure. Person who called in 1623. Did you have a question?
No, not at the time. I'm just listening. Thanks for the show.
Oh, right on. I'm going to get the next person that called in. Hang tight. I was just curious. How was your experience going to an HBCU? That seems like quite a transition.
Yeah. I mean, here's how I do it. I'm a track runner. I'm going where they're giving me full scholarship, and Delaware State was the one giving me full scholarship. I made some wonderful friends there. I was not uncomfortable there. Within the school itself, I liked the school. We were kind of in the middle of nowhere. We had to not leave our campus sometimes during one of our semesters. We were across the street from a racetrack, and all the Confederate flags would come out then. So we were warned not to walk around our own campus by ourselves at night, which was a little ridiculous.
Double whammy.
Frankly, you know, I liked the school. I liked the kids. The track team wasn't organized enough for me. They didn't have enough money to support me for my scholarship fully for the next year. That's the honest reason why I left. I left because they didn't have the financial. Other than that, it was a good experience.
The Confederate flags. That sounds. That seems to suggest there was some racism. Would that be correct?
There definitely. I mean, it was that was one thing that was stupid about the school. You warned us not to walk on our own campus at nighttime, but yet you're willing to allow these people to pay to bring their trailers into our parking lot so they're on our campus with us, so we're not safe on our own campus and we have to be on guard. That was the only ridiculous thing about Delaware State. Like, they were more focused on making money than for keeping their students safe.
Wow. I just want to repeat that for myself one time. On the campus of a historically black college university, you all were terrorized by racists with Confederate flags and had to be, on guard about going outside at night on the campus of a historically black college.
Double whammy.
Wow. Person who called in 2654, last four digits 2654. Did you have a question for Avery Klein-Cloud?
Yes, Gus. I have I have a several questions, but I'll just ask 2 questions. Hi, Avery.
Hello, hi, how are you?
Okay. During the film, you were saying that you weren't sure what being black was, but you seem to be very sure about your Jewishness, what being Jewish was. So can you explain to us what makes you Jewish? That's one question. And the second question is, I think later on this month we're trying to get together a program about black women and hair. And I noticed during the film, once you were moving out more on your own, it seemed like that's when you started to straighten your hair. And we just talked about you wanting to feel more feminine than the way that your adopted parents were bringing you up. So I wanted to know, did you feel like it was a conscious decision that you associated straightening your hair with looking more feminine?
Oh, okay, I'm going to answer your second question first because you might have to repeat the first question for me. I definitely did feel like straightening my hair would make me feel more feminine and more sure within myself. I did it when I was 18. It was a birthday present for me from one of my girlfriends who knew I wanted to get it done. So I did it, and I felt great about it. I mean, if you can see me now, I definitely had some major changes. Even before I left the house, one of my best friends, Nat, his mom, she knew what it was like, and she was like, we got to get your hair done. And I was like, okay, please do. And she started letting me pay for me to get my hair done my sophomore year in high school, and she started getting my hair braided for me, thank God. So I definitely do feel like I did that to feel more feminine and more sure of myself. I hope that answered your question.
Yes.
And your first question, feeling Jewish, I felt Jewish because I was raised Jewish. That's how I feel now. I do identify as Jewish being my religion. I'm not overly religious, just because I felt like it was forced on me too much when I was younger. I don't go to synagogue on Saturdays unless I'm home for a major holiday, then I'll go. I do believe in God. I do pray, but I like to do it on my own and on my own terms. I don't feel like I should have to be required to sit in a building at a certain time every week and pray. I feel like he's there 24/7. So that's my belief of, religion and what I am. I identify as Jewish because that's what I was raised and that's what I know. I don't know any other religion, but it's not a huge factor in my life. Religion is not a huge factor in my life, but God himself is. Did I answer you?
Yes, I'm good, Gus.
Okay.
Did you have another question, or?
No, we can let someone else in.
Okay. Do you want me to check back if we have time to see if you want to get in one more?
Please.
Okay. Groovy. I wanted to ask because I thought it was real interesting. That term popped up in the film, Oreo. Was that an issue? Anyone, black people, non-black people, white people, referencing you as an Oreo? And if so, could you share a little bit about that?
Being called an Oreo?
Yes, ma'am.
Only my friends do. If anybody else was to, I would be offended, very much so. But no, some of my friends do consider me an Oreo, which I'm cool with because I guess I kind of consider myself an Oreo as well. I'm definitely black on the outside and white on the inside. Like a lot of my friends will say, depending who I'm talking to on the phone, they'll hear like a white person come out in the way I talk, and I kind of switch back and forth, I guess, depending on who I'm with without knowing I do it. So they definitely do call me an Oreo. And I don't take offense to it when it's by my friends because I know it's like a little joke, playful nickname that they have for me. We all have nicknames for each other. But if somebody else was to call me an Oreo, I'd be like, excuse me? I don't think you know me to be saying that about me. So it's cool with it if I know you. Don't do it if you don't know me, though. It'll be a problem.
What do you do exactly? Like, can you name some behaviors that they'll be like, yep, see, that's you being an Oreo?
Sometimes the way I'll talk. Sometimes some things I'll say, they'll be like, oh, my God, there goes the white girl Oreo, like stuff like that.
Is it terms?
Like it's the things I say. Or like the songs I listen to sometimes. Like I'll come out with like a pop song and they're like, oh my God, there goes the white girl in you. And I'm like, hell yeah, I love my pop music. Any day. I listen to hip hop and R&B and reggae and soca with the rest of you. But yes, I do like my pop and my techno dance music sometimes. I like to, groove to that sometimes too. I like to listen to a little bit of everything, but yeah, like stuff like that, they'll be like, oh my God, you're such a white girl. So I have times like that.
Double whammy.
Let's see. The person who called in 7012, did you have a question? Let's try that again. 7012, did you have a question?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Hey, peace and greetings, Gus, and all the other college listeners. And good evening, Miss Avery. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't catch earlier when you responded to Gus's question about the system of white supremacy. Did you say you agreed that it exists, or you disagreed that it doesn't exist?
Oh, I agree that it exists.
Oh, okay.
The idea that they have more power in the world than most other groups.
Okay, swell. Well, I guess my question was that knowing that the system exists, would you logically think that it's appropriate to suspect all people who classify themselves as white to be racist?
No.
Okay.
That I can agree with.
Okay. Well, when you say your friends, because I saw a part in the film that was mentioned earlier when your film said, your friend said power to the people, and something about being full black, and just now you said if they weren't your friends, you might have had something to say about that. Well, what if they would say something like that when you weren't around? Would you consider them a racist?
No. See, all right, let me re-explain that. Now, what I mean when I say I would have been offended, I'm saying I would have been offended if I didn't know them and I happened to be walking by at the time when they said something like that and I was black, I probably would have been like, what the hell? Like, why would you say something like that? But I know them and I know how they are. Now, if they were to say something like that when I wasn't there, I wouldn't even know how to deal with that because I don't see them doing that ever. They're not the type of people to be like that. They would never ask the question of, do you feel uncomfortable or, there's a full black person in school. Like, they would never even ask the questions of diversity if I wasn't there. It just doesn't occur to them until I'm there and we're discussing school and stuff like that. So if they were to say that when I wasn't there, I wouldn't even know how to deal with that. And I don't see them as ever saying stuff like that. But, I don't know. They might, and I wouldn't even know. But when I'm with them, I don't take it offensively because I know them and I know how they are. If I saw somebody else doing that on the street, yeah, I'd be like, what's up with that? But that's the only difference.
Thank you.
Let's see. The person who dialed in, again, if you are interested in calling, the number is 347-215-6071. Context of White Supremacy. Person who called in, last four digits, 5301. 5301. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Good evening, Gus, and good evening, Avery. I have a question about something that you said a few minutes ago when he talked about the being an Oreo. You said that you're white on the inside. Could you elaborate a bit on what exactly does that mean, being white on the inside? And also, you made the comment when you talked about the music. You said you listen to reggae and rap like you people. Could you classify why you refer to, I'm assuming, non-white people as you people?
Sure, I'm not referring to anyone as you people other than my group of friends. Like when they'll be like, look, that's the white side coming out of you. Then I'm like, I listen to the same music as you guys do. So it's not you people referring to groups of different races, but just my friends saying like, y'all people, y'all group, y'all over there, y'all sitting over there calling me white, you guys, I listen to the music that you listen to too. So that's what I mean when I say you people. I don't mean any groups of races at all. And to answer your first question of saying white on the inside, black on the outside, that's what an Oreo is. That's black on both sides and white on the inside. So when I say, I am white on the inside, it means that I do have a little bit of both in me. I was raised white, so I can't say that I'm black and raised black and all I am is black. No, I'm definitely black. I feel black. I look black. I identify as black. But I do have that white culture in me. I was raised by it, and it's here. It's present, very much so. The reason why I say white on the inside is because my imagery, I'm black. I come off as black walking down the street. When people look at me, they see black. They don't see, oh, that's a black girl who has some white culture in her. Nobody sees that. They see a black girl. So that's why I say white on the inside, because you can't see it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I was just curious. You said white culture. I wanted to know what you mean when you say white culture, and specifically what things are a part of white culture that are not a part of anyone else's culture.
I don't know. I'm still learning that. I couldn't tell you. What I mean when I say white culture is what I'm raised by, my family. My family, they're white parents. They do it their way. I don't know because I don't really know other white families. I consider them white until I base it off of what I know about them. I can't base it off of other white people. I don't know other white people's families. I don't know how they were raised. I haven't lived with them. I haven't been with them for years to say, oh, this is what white culture is, or, oh, this is what black culture is. I'm still learning what black culture is. The only culture I know that I can consider white culture that I know personally is my parents. That's it. I can't speak for anyone else.
The person who called in, last four digits, 1325. 1325. Did you have a question? Person, last four digits, 1325. Did you have a question? Okay. Person who called in, last four digits, 1073. 1073. Did you have a question?
Sir, how you doing, Gus?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Oh, fine. No, let me get down to it. Yes, the young lady, if I'm not mistaken, you said you identify more with white people, and by listening to you talk, I wanted to ask you a question, and I need an honest answer. Now, knowing that we live in a system of white supremacy and capitalism, do you feel women are the biggest conformists? And not that I'm throwing everything on them, but do you feel women are the biggest conformists, and it's going to take the men to overthrow the system for the women to change their attitudes and respect black men? I'm done now. You can speak.
Respect black men. I respect black men perfectly fine. Honestly, I think that the people that don't respect black men are the people that have been harmed by them. That's the way it goes with everyone. If you have a judgment call on black men in general because that's the stereotype that they give you, then that's your concern. I can't help you with that. I'm not going to argue with someone that has a judgment call based off of nothing. If you sit here and you tell me a black man has done you wrong and that's why you think the way you think, you know what? I feel you. I understand why you feel that way, but you shouldn't judge all men because of what one man did to you. That's how I see it. That's one thing. Two, I definitely don't identify as white more than I identify as a black person. I identify more as a black person than a white person. I just do know that I was raised by white people and that it's a part of me. I don't know if I answered your question for you.
Well, what about the other question about the women, though? Well, I wanted your opinion on that.
On what exactly?
Well, I had asked you, do you think that women are the biggest conformists and that It would take the men to overthrow the system, and then the women's attitudes would change. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
I don't think I do. What about our attitude exactly?
Well, a lot of people feel black women don't respect black men because we're conquered men, and I do feel there's some truth to that. And you know, the white man, or his time is up, but as far as him, you know, controlling the United States and the world, you get what I'm trying to say?
I get that part, yes. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. That's a hard question to answer. My opinion, attitude towards men, black women's attitude towards men in general, I mean, yes, it's a stereotype based on what some men do. I don't know if it can be changed. I don't know if the attitude can be changed. It's been there for many, many years. It'll be a hard thing to change. But, I mean, if it can be, that's a great thing. But, I mean, you know, everybody's kind of got to change for that stereotype to change. Everyone's got to change for any stereotype to change. I mean, look, we have a black president now, right? Who saw that coming?
White people.
Not a lot of people. Not a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people saw that. Maybe, I mean, yeah, once he started running, but, like, who would say 20 years ago we saw that coming?
Let's see. I was not in that book. I was not in the group of folks who saw that coming 10 or 20 years ago. But I suspect the most powerful
I wasn't
white
really
people.
ready to.
I suspect the most powerful white people, they planned that 20 years ago.
Maybe. God knows. I can't deal with the government. I don't know what goes on behind those closed doors.
The person who called in, last four digits 2421. 2421. Did you have a question?
Hello?
Yes.
I don't know if this question has been asked to the guest. I'd just like to ask Miss Avery, have you ever been engaged in a sexual relationship with a white person?
No, I have not. I went out with one, but I have never been.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I had.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for calling in. That question was asked. People were curious about that one today. I wanted to ask you, there was a metaphor used in the film that your house, your family life was like the United Nations because you had a Korean child adopted and Rafi, who has, I think it's one Hispanic, one black parent, and you, of course, with your two white lesbian parents, just like the UN. And I thought that was a really fitting metaphor for a lot of reasons, but I thought most importantly, under white supremacy, it is like the UN, where you have mostly non-white people, but the white people are clearly in charge. The adults, the parents in the situation, the non-white people are like children. I thought that was very appropriate metaphor, unfortunately, for white supremacy. I wanted to ask, there's some other people that called in as well. I wanted to ask because there's been so much discussion, at least in my opinion, there's been so much discussion of late about quote unquote transracial adoption and the Blind Side film, and then, you know, Sandra Bullock carrying out the film in real life. What are your views on white people adopting non-white children? Do you think that's something that is constructive? Do you have, you know, what are your views on that?
I mean, I'm very supportive of transracial adoption. I think it's a great opportunity for the kids that get adopted and for the parents themselves to learn. What I do have to say, if you are going to adopt the kids from a different culture, you have to be prepared for the fact that they're going to want to know about their culture at some point in their life. You're going to have to prepare for the fact that, frankly, you should be exposing them and involving them in their culture at a young age. They shouldn't start dealing with it in high school. They should deal with it when they're younger, so they're already accustomed to it. And I know that's hard for parents to do because they're introducing themselves to a new culture, but if you're going to adopt someone from a different culture, you need to be prepared for that and be able to handle the situation. If you don't think that you can do that, then do not attempt to adopt someone from a different culture. You're already going to have to deal with them wanting to find their birth family. There are some kids that don't, but most of them do. So that's already one issue. And if you're going to adopt transracially, that's a whole other issue. So you have to be prepared for it or don't do it. That's my opinion.
Do you think your parents were adequately prepared to adopt non-white children?
Yes and no. They did put the effort in, but at the same time, they were so focused on our education that they forgot that we should be able to interact with other kids of our age. We really did not have a very fun-filled childhood. Me and my brother were best friends basically because that's all we did. We'd be at track meets and we'd be studying unless we were running. We didn't go to sleepovers. We didn't really go out much with friends. So, I think that's just because my parents were strict. We didn't even hang out with our white elementary school kids a lot either. So it wasn't like a racial thing with them. They were really strict on our studies.
Interesting. The person who called in, last four digits, 8162. 8162. Did you have a question?
I do. Greetings, Gus.
Greetings.
Avery. This is Minnie B. And Miss Avery, I've watched your film twice, and my question is, how do you feel if it's not too tender? What are your views on abortion now? I thought.
How do I feel about my?
How do you feel about? What are your views on abortion now, and are you active? Are you an active pro-choice or pro-life person?
I'm definitely pro-choice. I do feel like women have the right to decide if they want to have an abortion or not. How do I feel about my abortion personally? It was definitely the right thing for me to do at that time in my life. I was not ready for a child. Neither was Prince, my boyfriend. He's younger than me. It would have meant putting both of our lives on hold. It's hard. I do think about the potential child that I could have had, and I know how old he or she would have been right now. It stays with you. It is damaging. But I also didn't want to be sitting here for the rest of my life wondering if I had given my child up for adoption, where would he or she be? Is she or he being well taken care of? Is he or she still alive? I didn't want to be thinking about that for the rest of my life. I didn't want to go through what my birth mom went through, thinking about me. I didn't want that. I didn't want my kid to be wondering where I was and why I gave him up or her up. So I think that was the right choice for me. I definitely think that women should have the choice to be able to decide if they want to have their child or not.
May I ask another question? And I don't know if it was answered or asked earlier. Did you ever have the opportunity to meet with any members of your birth family or your birth mother?
No. I did find out that I have 3 older brothers and a younger sister. Nobody in the family knows I exist except for my birth mom and my supposed birth father. After 6 months of contacting with me, she just disappeared one day. She continued to write one of my moms and told her that she wasn't ready to handle this. She wasn't ready to inform, her family of what was going on, and she just disappeared after that. So I haven't heard from her in a little bit over 3 years.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Do you feel rejected by black people?
No.
Or by the black community?
No, I've never felt that way. They've always been very accepting of me. I've always been very open about my family background and where I come from, and they've always been very interested, in me and actually helping me to understand them and the culture better.
What are you studying in school?
Criminal justice. That is my major.
8162, hang tight. There was one other person that dialed in. I wanted to make sure I got their question as well. 9674. Did you have a question?
Yes. Greetings, Avery. I have one question for you. You mentioned that you had a Korean adopted sibling, correct?
Yes.
Was a Korean sibling, did they ever take any interest in connecting with their Korean heritage or with the Korean community and learning their culture?
Well, he's only 10 years old, so to him it's not really important yet, I don't think.
He's only 10 years old right now?
Yeah, he's currently only 10 years old, so he's not really focused on it yet. But he definitely he does he is a part of a Korean group, and he does do, I don't know if it's Korean or not, but he does karate, so he's met a bunch of other Korean kids through that he interacts with and their families. I don't live at home anymore, but he does have an interaction with them, which is really great. We have gone to a few Korean festivals for adoptees to learn more about their Korean heritage, and we've just been to festivals itself, just so he can be a part of it. And although I hate the food, he loves the food, and I always try to learn and accept it every time we go. So he's not to the point yet where he has asked about his birth mom, but he's not to the point yet where, it's on the top of his mind.
Is he also being raised in the Jewish religion?
Yes, we all are, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, I wanted to make sure I checked back with, I believe it was 2654. Was it 2654? Did you have another question?
Yes, I did. Thanks, Gus. Avery, you said when you went to Erasmus that all of the students, the majority of the students were black, but the majority of the teachers were white. Did you see anything wrong with that then? And when you look back on it now, do you see anything wrong with that?
No, not really. The schools are based off of the area around them, and it's a black community, so it's expected that most of the community, most of the kids in the school are going to be black. And the teachers, I don't really know how the teaching system works. There were definitely some black teachers and black administrators there, but a majority of the teachers were white. I don't have a problem with it. I don't see a problem with it. But that's just the way it was. And that's, I've been back to visit, and that's the way it still is.
Did you have access to black adults as you were growing up?
Somewhat. I was on a track team, a club team from the time I was 6 years old. That was a black team, basically. There was 2 white kids on the team, and I did interact with those parents, but again, my parents had us really focused on studying. So it was like practice. If the coach wasn't there yet, we didn't get out of the car. We were doing our work, and when practice was over, we were in the car and we were out of there. So it was just we never really. I didn't become close with some of the kids on my team until I was in high school, when I had more freedom to kind of do what I wanted to track meets and have practice because my mom wasn't there. So, I did have a few, but we didn't become close until I was in my high school years.
And that's one more question, if I may. When you started to be away from home for days at a time, and then you just started to be away from home, where were you staying?
By my coach who I had known since I was 6 years old. I was staying with him, and I was staying with some family friends for a while, and I was staying by my boyfriend's house for a while. And then I was off to college.
Thanks, Gus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really powerful story. It's incredible. I just want to make sure I get on the record. I think it takes a lot of courage to come out and speak publicly about issues that are this tough and things that you're grappling with. And I just want to commend you for being so honest and candid, and at such a young age too. I learned a ton, and I definitely will be sending a request immediately to have Nicole Opper on the program, and if I'm able to pull that off, I will make sure that I let you know. I'd be interested to hear your feedback if she's able to come on the program.
Okay, sounds good.
Groovy. Again, our guest for the program, Miss Avery Klein-Cloud. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending some of your evening with us. And I want to make sure I get you the information for Lisa Marie Rollins. She's a black female, and she was AFAD, fantastic group. It's all about supporting black adopted children who
you
are
say
with.
AFAD?
Yes, ma'am. AFAD.
Oh, I'm already a group. I'm already part of that group.
Right on. Do you know Lisa Marie Rollins? Are you familiar with her?
I don't know her through. I know the group through a woman named Eva Miller.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know them through Lisa Rollins.
Okay. She's great. I think she would be a great resource. Just, a cool person to know. And she's very informed. Like, she's getting her PhD at Berkeley, and she's studying all about racism, and she does a lot of work on transracial adoption. I think she would dig. I think she would take it as part of her duty to make contact with you and to share information. So I'll shoot you an email with her contact info.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
For sure. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We will be in touch soon. Again, our guest, Avery Klein-Cloud. Take excellent care, and we will speak with you.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. Enjoy it. Good
All right. Bye-bye.
Peace. Context of White Supremacy. We will be right back. Quick commercial. I will get the folks who dialed in, who have a hand up, just sit tight, and we'll be right back. Context of White Supremacy.
Hello everybody, welcome to the C.O.W.S. This is Justice here at Blog Talk Radio. If you want to learn, listen, understand, and question, go to blogtalkradio.com/victim-of-racism, and for more information on racism, white supremacy, go to my blog, justdojusticetoday.blogspot.com. My email address is justice.asap@yahoo.com. Replace white supremacy with justice, ASAP.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
Okay, so here at UCLA, it's finals week. So we know that I'm not the most politically correct person, so don't take this offensively. I don't mean it towards any of my friends. I mean it towards random people that I don't even know in the library. So you guys are not the problem. The problem is these hordes of Asian people that UCLA accepts into our school every single year, which is fine. But if you're going to come to UCLA, then use American manners. So it used to really bug me, but it doesn't bother me anymore, the fact that all the Asian people that live in all the apartments around me, their moms and their brothers and their sisters and their grandmas and their grandpas and their cousins and everybody that they know that they brought along from Asia with them comes here on the weekends to do their laundry, buy their groceries, and cook their food for the week. It's seriously without fail. You will always see old Asian people running around this apartment complex every weekend. That's what they do. They don't teach their kids to fend for themselves. You know what they don't also teach them is their manners, which brings me to my next point. Hi. In America, we do not talk on our cell phones in the library. Where every 5 minutes, I will be, okay, not 5 minutes, say like 15 minutes. I'll be like deep into my studying, into my political science theories and arguments and all that stuff, getting it all down, like typing away furiously, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, when I'm about to like reach an epiphany, over here from somewhere, oh, ching chong bing long ting tong. Oh, are you freaking kidding me? In the middle of finals week. So being the polite, nice American girl that my mama raised me to be, I kind of just gave him what anybody else would do, that kind of like, you know, it's the library, like we're trying to study things. And then it's the same thing 5 minutes later, but it's somebody else, you know. I swear they're going through their whole families, just checking on everybody from the tsunami thing. I mean, I know, okay, that sounds horrible. Like, I feel bad for all people affected by the tsunami, But if you're going to go call your address book, like, you might as well go outside, because if something is wrong, you might really freak out if you're in the library and everybody's quiet. Like, you seriously should go outside if you're going to do that. So thanks for listening. That was my rant. Even if you're not Asian, you really shouldn't be on your cell phone in the library, but I've just never seen that happen before. So thank you for listening, and have a nice day.
Do you see why I consistently say do not let those white heifers get a pass? And I did name call, my bad. Do you see why I have the focus on those white chicks on the front poster? They are not victims. There's not patriarchy. There's not sexism. There is the system of white supremacy, period. I'm going to open the lines up for the people who called in. But I do want to read a news story, so it would be great if you could keep the noise to a minimum. Thank you, guys and ladies. Yeah, give me a second. I will get them open. If you dialed in non-Mighty Wick, I have your line as well. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, non-Mighty Wick, I have your line as well. And, yeah, if you think you might want to chat at some point, you should probably press 1 now, because I might lose my phone line. Christy Graham is on the line. She's an investor. She has new photos on Facebook where she is not holding a white person, super gorgeous investor, and great to see beautiful black females who are not touching a white person in a photograph. Let's see. Okay. I think I got the phone lines, and people are being courteous with the background noise, which I love. Thank you all for being codified, because there are a lot of people on the phone, so, just keep it down. I want to read this one story. We're trying to incorporate having a news segment every program, so I want to kind of kick this off correctly. There are a lot of news reports I could share. I feel like I haven't read news on the program in a while, and there are a lot of things I could read. I'm just going to do this one, and then I'll hush. I just saw this because it's related to the program. Man, oh man. Hollywood A-listers urge president, and they don't say president, I'm just inserting it. They say Hollywood A-listers urge Obama to support gay marriage. This is Tuesday, March 15th. This just was on the Yahoo News ticket. Just weeks after the Obama administration announced it would no longer legally defend the Defense of Marriage Act, some of the president's biggest Hollywood supporters have signed a letter urging him to go a step further and legalize same-sex marriage. Anne Hathaway, Martin Sheen, Jane Lynch, and Ellen DeGeneres are among the actors who have signed an open letter sponsored by the Freedom to Marry, a New York-based advocacy group working to promote marriage rights for same-sex couples. Citing Obama's decision on DOMA last month, the letter calls for Obama to exhibit similar leadership on same-sex marriage rights. Whether to end discrimination in marriage is a question America has faced before and faces again today. It is a question that calls for clarity from the president. The letter reads, "We would ask you to complete your journey and join us, the majority of Americans who support the freedom to marry." The letter was also signed by NFL linebackers Scott Fujita of the Cleveland Browns and Brendan Ayanbadejo of the Baltimore Ravens, entertainment moguls David Geffen and Bob Wright, former NAACP Chairman Julian Bond, that would be a cowbell ring, but I'm not on my switchboard, Facebook co-founders Chris Hughes and Sean Parker. Hughes, who is openly gay, previously worked for Obama's campaign in 2008, heading up its enormously successful new media efforts. The letter comes as Obama prepares to launch his 2012 re-election campaign, in which he will no doubt count on entertainment types as an important source of financial and public support. The president's relationship with Hollywood has noticeably cooled since 2008, as celebrities have openly expressed their discontent with Obama in part because of his position on same-sex marriage. Just last month, Matt Damon from Blood Diamond, at least one, Blood Diamond, Matt Damon railed on Obama in an interview with CNN, bluntly saying he has not done a good job as president. Meanwhile, Lynch, the openly gay star of Glee, called Obama a huge disappointment for his handling of gay rights. Obama has long said that he supports civil unions as an alternative to marriage for gays and lesbians, putting him to the right of former Vice President Dick Cheney, who has endorsed same-sex marriage. But in December, Obama admitted his views on gay marriage are evolving and said he would continue to wrestle with the issue. Last month, the Justice Department dropped its attempt to defend the constitutionality of DOMA in court, with Attorney General Eric Holder saying in a statement that Obama had personally concluded the law was unconstitutional. Many gay rights supporters view that position as an opening, though it's unclear how far Obama will be willing to go ahead of what could be a tough re-election campaign. Very interesting report. Someone emailed it to me like 10 minutes ago. Very timely, in fact. No coincidences. Very interesting. And I think this is going to be the issue. 2012 election comes. I think this is going to be the issue. And I think the racist man and racist woman, the so-called gay arm of racist man and racist woman, they are going to be flexing hard for the next 12 months. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes down. I am good. I just want to, again, throw in, I think, this film. And again, in fact, I'm going to play, since I still have my switchboard, I'm going to play that sound clip again because I think this film, Off and Running, I think it is the so-called homosexual agenda that is off and running. And I mean, man, it is big time in this film. I'm going to play this clip and then I'll go to the lines.
This is 13 Wham News at 6.
Same-sex marriages performed elsewhere are now legal in New York.
But as this couple and others will tell you, there is more to be done.
This decision basically recognizes a marriage in another state or a country, say Canada or Massachusetts, here in New York. It doesn't mean that same-sex marriages can be performed legally here in the state.
People will say things about gay people and stuff, and I'll get all defensive, and they'll wonder why I'm so opinionated about the subject, but I guess I don't feel like they deserve to know. I'm just someone standing up for what I believe is right, which is a little different than being personally connected and then trying to defend what you're related to.
I am very much for gay marriage. There's nothing wrong with people of the same sex getting married. If you love someone, you love someone. You cannot help who you love. Nobody should dictate who people should get married to, who they should love, and how.
Context of White Supremacy. Again, I just want to say, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, White Genetic Annihilation. I hope people did not miss that segment where she said that her white lesbian parents restricted her femininity, had her dressing like a male, haircut like a male, and that was a part of their conflict, a key part of their conflict, not allowing her to express her femininity. White genetic annihilation. And I will mute my line. Everybody that called in with a hand up, your line is open.
Good evening, Gus. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I got, this is a 9639. I got on the line late, and I didn't know. Did you ask the question referencing when white people compare, gay white people compare themselves or their circumstance to how black people, how we've struggled and how we've struggled through slavery? Did you ask her that question?
I did not. That doesn't come up in the film, although it did come up in that article I just read. That didn't come up in the film. And she said, she hasn't engaged in any so-called homosexual activity. So, no. But no, I didn't ask that question.
Okay. All right.
I have a lot of thoughts about that young woman. Did she speak about her... Can I be heard?
Yes.
Oh, did she speak about what, where her older brother is and what he's doing?
You mean Rafi, her adopted brother?
Yes.
I believe he's still at Princeton. I think that was my understanding. The people on the call, is that your understanding, or am I incorrect?
Yes, Princeton.
Okay.
All right.
I think at some point it might be good to try to interview him, since he made that comment that he could be whatever he makes himself. I would like to know how that worked out.
I felt myself being very restrained with that young woman, and I thought she was a victim of the filmmaker's agenda, homosexual agenda.
I second that. I agree with that.
Was she familiar with the Oreo experience?
I didn't. I've been thinking about her a lot. I have a show in mind. I'm gonna see if I can make that happen. But I didn't reference my pal Oreo experience.
Gus, what are your thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Gus, did you get the feeling that it was the darkness of her hue that kind of actually helped her to, the black identification that she did have in terms of her friends, in terms of her boyfriend? Did you think that the darkness of her skin in terms of that, at least with that, there was no denying? Do you think that helped her to be able to break away, even if just in her mind, and attach herself to the black people that she could attach herself to, that she had access to, unlike the brother?
I can't. I just can't make that statement because I've seen way too many individual victims who are very dark complexion. Absolutely. And they are as white identified as any other victim.
Right.
I could name names, but I don't want to do that. But I've seen a ton of examples of that, so I can't even really say that.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel the same way I felt with listening to the proud gay black male and all of his confusion and his stance and positioning.
I feel a little differently about this young lady. I mean, she's only 21, and she wasn't that guy. He was just ridiculous, and he just had such venom, against black people, and he just was not seeing reality at all. I mean, at least she's trying. She's trying to put the pieces together. She has a minute, But he was gone. I mean, I don't have any patience for him. He was just nuts.
Well, I thought it was pretty glaring that she's at Delaware State and the black students are told that not to come out of their dorms because of the racist man and women in their campers.
Double whammy.
And she couldn't draw that connection that she's experiencing racism.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, the same thing with the Erasmus high school situation, where she didn't see any problem with the majority of the students being black, but the majority of the teachers being white.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I noticed when I asked her about her parents being racist, she didn't even think about it. Her response was so quick. She said no right after I got done answering the question. She didn't even think about it. So it's kind of hard to know that she is, to know that if someone is raised by lesbians, white lesbians, if they're ever going to ever see their parents as racist. So it might be just as worse as the gay guy.
Yeah, I would agree. I think those two white lesbian parents being raised by them, I mean, definitely did a number on her. I mean, when you're around, white people a lot, I seen like half of the film. She was in class with the little Jewish hat on. I mean, she said it herself. She's a so-called Oreo, but a lot of things she said was in conflict with other things she said. She said on one hand she was kind of white identified, and then on the other hand, she identified with black. So I think being around white people definitely has confused her.
Right, that's for sure, but at least she's still questioning, herself and how she came up, and, she's still asking the questions, whereas, that guy, as far as he was concerned, he had the answers. He knew that what he said it was is what it was, and that was the end of it. Black people were just, quote-unquote racist towards him, and he had no time for us. He had already, made up his mind. He was right, and that was that. At least she is still questioning. I mean, of course, she's gonna be. I mean, she was raised by these people. They fed her. Of course, she's gonna be identified with them.
I want to clarify something, and that was, I wasn't necessarily, when I made the statement that I was feeling, I find myself feeling the same way after listening to the proud gay black male, that I wasn't necessarily comparing these two individuals, but my own experience in listening to their confusion and injury. It's very sad to me.
Sure.
It's very sad. And another thing that's swirling in my head is being raised by white lesbians and Jewish. And I know that the Jewish culture community, a big part of their child-rearing indoctrination is remember that the Jews are victims. That, there's a saying in the Jewish community, some people hate the blacks, some people hate the whites, but everybody hates the Jews.
Mm.
No, I didn't mean that you can compare the two. I meant that identifying people that has deliberately confused you. And I'm not saying that. Because I'm confused as well, but I have to admit that white people that were in my life as a child, teachers, people I thought were, showing me genuine, truthful information was actually leading me astray. It was confusing me. So if she can't come to that conclusion after learning about racism, then that's just as confused as a gay guy. That's what I meant by it, because you do have to identify that the lesbianism, that they were cutting her hair off and dressing her up like a boy, is pretty dangerous. And that's probably why she answered so quick. That was my point.
I thought that it was pretty interesting to hear about her going to cohabitate with her young boyfriend. That seemed a little... As a parent, I couldn't imagine allowing my child to go live with a boyfriend. That's not going to go down. So it just seemed as though, because her parents are in the sort of arrangement that they're in, that they're more accepting of situations like that. And it's also interesting that when she referenced her birth mother, she said they had fallen out of touch, but she said her so-called father, and it seemed as if she's still holding on to some sort of resentment or animosity, legitimate or otherwise, towards the black male figure in her life who was absent, who was her father.
I think she, at least when I watched the movie, I got that sense of this person is not getting the help they need. This person is not getting the support that they need what they're going through, and at the age that they are. And I bet on some level, subconsciously, or if not consciously, she understands that too, and she might just hang that on the absent black male figure, because she definitely was not getting the help she needed in that movie. I felt like, and that was conscious racism on the white people involved part too.
For the people who heard, I'm gonna mute my line. I just wanted to get this in because I think this is relevant. Do you think that could have been a conscious act to provide do you think that may have been a conscious decision to offer non-constructive, quote-unquote, assistance? The filmmaker, Nicole Opper, lesbian white woman, sending Avery Klein-Cloud to Joy Lieberthal for counseling. Joy Lieberthal is a non-black, non-white person, so-called Korean, who was adopted by white parents. Do you think that could have been a conscious act of racism to send her to someone who is most likely going to be confused and not able to give the help that is needed?
Absolutely.
I would say that it was a conscious act. If you have a young black female who is having or suffering from an identity crisis, and she's in crisis in other areas of her life, it would seem logically that the most constructive individual that you would point her in the direction of would be a black female who would be someone who could look like her, who could identify with some of the situations that she is going through. Pointing her to an individual who was a non-black female, I think, served the purpose of further indoctrinating her to be white identified, to more likely say, well, this person has adjusted and has accepted their white indoctrination, so you should as well.
I think from in my experience dealing with racist man, racist woman, they really look to try to get as many birds with one stone as possible. And so, I think the director was like, well, hey, I can have two non-white people think that I'm trying to help them out, black female in the hello? Can I be heard?
Yes.
Got some background noise. Keep the background noise down, please.
All right, thank you. Yeah, just real quick, just that three birds with one stone. So she says, hey, I can have the two non-white people get the impression I'm trying to help them out. I'm trying to help the black female by getting her counseling, and I'm getting my Asian counselor friend in the movie. So I got her in the movie, and this works well for my movie because look, I can play this all out. This confusion on tape. So.
And I think it also, supports, the fact that, racist woman is just as involved, if not more so, than holding up this system as her male counterpart. I mean, basically, this producer used, this black girl to promote, that white lesbian agenda. That's really what the movie was about. How magnanimous these two, white lesbians were. Even to the point of showing how, I read some of the comments of I think following the documentary review, and I mean a couple of people were saying, how ungrateful she was, for even putting, the two white lesbians through, what she put them through. That she should be glad to have had, such great people that took her in, that adopted her. So
that was in the New York Times. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I didn't read that.
What I think is that when white identified persons like her parents, so-called parents, adopt non-white children, I think that it gives them a veil of being for social justice, being social justice crusaders, so that it gives them a pass or carte blanche. They're able to say, for instance, their lifestyle is the new black, which is a common offensive phrase I've been hearing quite a bit lately. Blank is the new black. And it often makes me wonder, well, what happened to the old black? Because I'm still the old black. And so I think that when you have parents like that who consciously go and seek out non-white children, that they do it for the purpose of appearing to be social justice crusaders. And I think it is a very refined form of racism, white supremacy.
Hang tight 1 second. I'm adding a person to the line. Yeah, sorry, that's me. Hopefully they'll get it soon. And
Gus, you're calling people?
Yeah, they wanted to get constructive information on white supremacy. Oh, I am getting some background noise though. Maybe I.
You have reached a friend.
That's interesting. I'll try again in a moment. I did want to get that New York Times piece in though, because I thought that was pretty important. Because it touched on exactly what the caller said. People watched this film and they didn't empathize with black. It was what I said. I hope I was clear that I think you could watch this film and it come away with a very anti-black feeling. That all this whole conflict with good white lesbian parents. I'm getting a lot of background noise. Way too much background noise. Like this would make me rethink opening up so many phone lines in the future. Like, if you could mute your line, that would be great if you're not talking, because I'm hearing, like, moving around and shifting, and it's a lot of people on the line. Thank you. But, yeah, I think you could watch this film and just come away with a very poor perception of black people. It's the same shiftless, promiscuous, black female, teenage pregnancy, run amok, welfare queen mom, shiftless black female. She has 4 or 5 children, can't take care of them, expects us to I think you could get all of that in this film. And the whole conflict with her adopted white lesbian parents is around her trying to get in contact with her black biological mom. And this is in the New York Times Review. The person says, the role played by Nicole Opper, that is the lesbian film producer, the role played by her camera in exacerbating Avery's natural adolescent self-absorption continues to nag. In the end, I was less concerned for the wildly indulged Avery, she's wild, black people as wild savages, whose own narration reveals a charismatic and extremely fortunate young woman, than for the hearts breaking around her. I mean, that right there says, I did not connect with the main character in the film, the black female. I connected with the lesbian white parents who got married in the film, and I felt bad for them that this wild black girl was acting crazy, getting pregnant, and running out of the house trying to be with black people and trying to get in contact with her irresponsible black mom. And by the way, gay marriage. Thumbs up. Like that's totally how you could walk away. Even black people, I think, could see this, and that would be the opinion that you could come away with consciously, subconsciously. Yeah, and I'll mute. Oh, I'm going to mute my line, but I am going to attempt to add that call. So forgive me if you hear a ring. Just try to make do.
I agree 100%. And as I reflect on the movie, there was one point in which the lesbian mothers say, well, I wish I could help. I wish she was little. I wish Avery was a baby or little and I could help her, but we don't know what to do now. And I think that's part of the issue with transracial adoption. From my observation is that white people adopt non-white children, babies, and then when they grow up and interact with the world, they don't know what to do to provide any form of guidance or instruction or support, and they just let them go.
And it's also interesting to note that I think I saw somewhere where it said they lived in Crown Heights or somewhere around the Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York area, and that area is well known for the conflict between the Jews, the Hasidim, and the black people in that area. It's well known. So I wasn't really surprised when she was saying that these two white parents would pick her up immedately, following an event, and gave her very little time to interact, with black people in that community. And it was interesting at one point in the documentary again, going with Gus's point of basically trying to say how ungrateful, this girl was, that I think it was Tova that said, we would do anything for this kid. Like what else could we have done for her? What else can we do for her? So it just went into that whole ungrateful thing. That's the way I was feeling about that.
They're helpless and they become the victim.
Right.
Yeah, I got that real clear. And I think I felt that whole film was about making white people feel very comfortable with what they do and who they are and the choices they make. Specifically white women.
Well, me being a person that grew up in Brooklyn and I lived in Crown Heights growing up, I very much know how that neighborhood is. And the school that she talked about, Erasmus Hall, I grew up 3 blocks from that school growing up, and my older aunts and uncles went to that school. And even the young people that I know who go to that school right now, it's not one of New York's best schools.
No.
And it doesn't have a reputation for academic excellence, and it particularly doesn't have a reputation for being a school that encompasses the perspective of non-white people.
I want to know what school, what institution is that is doing anything to help any non-white people to understand racism. I mean, I don't think any school is doing that is ran by the government. So I mean, that's across the line, you know.
Yeah, but in particular, if you lived in New York, you knew anything about Erasmus and a few other high schools, you would know that some teachers or so-called teachers in these particular institutions seem to go above and beyond to try to agitate students to get them to want to drop out, and they try to steer them towards getting a GED and discourage them from going to high school. I had a young intern a few years ago who went to Erasmus, and that was his experience. You know, he got to the 10th grade and began questioning why wasn't it inclusive of talking about other people, and he got labeled as an agitator or a militant, and from that point forward, they began a campaign of trying to get him out of school.
Well, that still confirms the system of racism and white supremacy, because you have to go to them to validate to them that you're intelligent and you are qualified. Holmes, I heard on another show that Gus had with Brother Polite, on how black people were telling him he needed to stop doing that or white people are going to come and get him. That confirms everything about racism, white supremacy. When you keep going back to them and saying, hey, I'm smart enough, you know, let me take your test, let me get in your class, it just confirms it. It confirms that you're still a victim. And you still need them to validate if you're intelligent or not. So that's what I take from it.
I found it interesting the way she was able to identify herself as a Jew rather easily, and then she actually, I think, asked Gus what it meant to be black. She couldn't really identify with being black, but she identified with being a Jew rather easily.
That's because they taught her. They gave her instruction, and they surrounded her with peers of her age going through the same indoctrination.
Is Judaism a religion or a ethnic group?
I say religion.
Actually, it's the most refined, chosen people on the face of the earth that deserve everything, and all of us are supposed to bow down to them.
Oh, I didn't get that memo.
Yeah.
Because they seem focused on their bloodlines.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean... Well, according to Michael Bradley, only about 3 or 4% of them can actually trace their bloodlines back to the actual land that they're talking about. The rest of the people just basically are white from Ashkenazi Russia, like Stipe tribes, and they've just basically converted to so-called Jews to become those chosen people. So, like you said, a refined way to practice white supremacy.
The problem is white people.
Absolutely, and they were absolutely, purposely withholding information from, this young lady, because one of the women is supposedly actually from, was born in or raised in or whatever, this place called Israel, and I didn't want to press the young lady on it, but I'd be very interested to know, how much information she has on, this place called Israel where I think it was Tova, where Tova came from.
And Tova's mother. Why do you think you were restrained or held back?
Well, basically because of her age. Because of her age, and then it just seemed clear to me that she was still in the process of trying to understand, what had happened from her. Because she's very clearly, victimized.
Mhm. Do you
and
think she thinks she's been victimized?
Do I think she's been victimized?
Or do you think she's aware that she's been victimized? I think
right.
many
No,
of
I don't think that she sees it that way, but I think that she's trying to work through it, trying to understand what has gone on. So I think she's still in that process. So that's why I didn't feel to really, come at her, because even when she said that the black people at the viewing, the screening, displayed racism against, these two white women. I really wanted to know. It was clear that she didn't understand what racism was when she said that.
Well, I think that she's at the remedial level of understanding racism, white supremacy. She hasn't gone to Racism 101 yet. She's still in the stage in which she is very white identified. The comment about being white inside was quite disturbing to me. It reminded me of a show that I heard, I believe it's Reckless 2.0. And on that show, they had a young lady who has been on YouTube, and she's been talking, actively advocating for interracial relationships. And I know that at one point she began even sobbing, saying, I just want us to love each other. I want everyone to love everybody. And she said she 100% supported interracial relationships between black and whatever, whether it be Asian, Latino, white, anything. And she was pretty firm in her stance on that perspective. And I think that this young lady is in a similar vein, that as a result of her indoctrination, she truly believes in her mind, like a lot of people, that her Michael Jackson We Are the World vision of things is actually the best way to go. But I could be wrong.
Having two white parents will do that to you. Two lesbian, so-called Jewish white parents will do that to you, I'm sure.
I think it'd be more to for her to just identify racism when she sees it, and being honest about it. I think that's probably the hardest thing. From listening to the interview, how she shy away from it, which I used to do when I first started hearing about racism. But that's what I mainly hear at her, and when I listen to her, is she doesn't want to identify people who she trusts, who she thinks she can trust, about talking about racism. She's defensive. So I think that's the first step is just identifying it without name calling or saying this person is wrong and this, that, and the other. Call it for what it is, and then you can move forward and being honest with yourself. And that's what I heard in the interview. So, and she is 21, so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if your white friends will joke about it in front of you, that obviously comes from somewhere. So for you to just assume based off of you knowing them and you all being so-called friends that they're not saying and or thinking these things when you're not around, I mean, I definitely think that's just not being honest. She's not being honest with herself.
Did any of the callers, the listeners, hear the interview, the conversation with Terry Kelleher, who he's a homosexual man who's adopted a black child, male child?
Was that the one?
Was that the one who adopted the child like right after it was born?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of confusion we're going to hear in 10, 15 years from Terry Kelleher's son? Is this the experiment that these white folks are going to keep practicing and doing and perpetrating on black youth?
I think so.
Good question. Yeah.
I think it's intensifying.
You think it's intensifying?
Absolutely.
Particularly, they're refining it. They're building up their so-called gray areas where they're adopting non-white children. They're putting before a lot of the young people today, they're putting before them examples of people who function in the gray area, people who have a non-white parent and a white parent, and people who are in high-profile positions. So that seems to be what a lot of young people aspire to. I can't tell you the amount of young people that I encounter who are looking forward to partnering with a white person so that they can supposedly make the next Obama.
Kamau Bell said that. W. Kamau Bell, he was, man, that is the debut program for the Cowbell. W. Kamau Bell. Anyone who is still confused about the Cowbell, that program should give you an A+ education. W. Kamau Bell, but he had a joke that we talked about how he and his suspected racist wife were going to have some little Obamas. He has a sketch routine about that. I wanted to, Non-Mighty Wick, I think he had a comment, and I also, during the program, I was thinking RAD. I was going to see if you could explain that for the listeners, and then you can share your comment, too. I thought you had something to say as well.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the caller asked if we could expect, more of this from non-white people who have white parents. And I think, I guess if the alternative is the white people are going to start being honest and telling the non-white people all they need to know to deal with racism, of course we can't expect that. That'd be the opposite of what they're looking for. RAD just means racism avoidance disorder, or racism. This is basically just a failure to analyze things in the context of white supremacy. So it's whenever something comes up that should be looked at with all the pieces, you kind of give it a pass to say, no, it can't be that. That must not be that. And I think the guest today did kind of give white people a whole lot of space or passes on what, in my opinion, was clearly acts of racism, overt, right to our face.
I agree.
I thought it was interesting, though, that at least at some point she felt the need to be feminine, that she wanted to be feminine, and I don't really get the feeling that this young boy that's with Kelleher, I don't get the feeling that at some point he's going to, say, I don't think I'm masculine enough. I need to find out what it is I need to do to be more masculine. I don't get the feeling that moment is going to come for him, for that little boy. But I think by the time he gets, certainly to her age or to teenage, he's going to be so jacked up that it's going to be no I don't know if there's going to be a recovery.
I didn't hear what you last. You don't know if there's going to be what?
I don't know if there's going to be any recovery for him being brought up by, this pervert. Not that there are any, not that the two, white lesbians are any less perverts, but for whatever reason, she did get to where she was clear that even if she accepted what they were, that she didn't want to be that. And I don't know that this young black boy is I don't know. I just feel like he's so overwhelmed already.
About being honest is for non-white people to be honest. See, that's the key. Not just white people. Well, white people used to be honest. They was deliberately practicing racism brutally in history. Now it's more deception or refinement of racism. And non-white people are the ones not honest. Like the Oreo experience. She is honest about her confusion. She is openly honest. And that's where I think someone earlier said it reminded them of the Oreo experience. And I would disagree and say, well, the Oreo experience is more open about her confusion and direct, where this young female, 21-year-old female, seems to be hiding some of her truth. And that's where I think we need to focus more on, is just being honest. Non-white people, because we are the majority people on the planet, and if non-white people on the planet start to be more honest about it, then you have less confusion when you look at these documentaries.
Well, I like to put something out here, and maybe someone else can do something to aid me in stemming the tide of confusion of those around me. When I encounter non-white people and I have any discussion, whether it be remedial, 101, 201, or 301 level discussion of racism, their eyes glaze over. And it's like I could literally see them tuning me out. And, I mean, am I the only one who sees that? Because it's very disheartening.
I get the same.
In those times when you're seeing that happen, are those in those conversations, are you being careful and paying attention to the terms you're using and defining them as you go?
Absolutely. This is why I use different levels with different individuals. For instance, the other day, a young black male was using the term nigger, and he said to me, "What up, my nigga?" And I said, "Well, what makes me your nigga?" And he's like, "Well, you know what I mean." And I said, "Well, actually, I don't. What do you mean, my nigga? What exactly is a nigga? I want to know what your definition is." So he said to me, "Well, you know what a nigga is." And I said, "Well, actually, I don't know. Could you educate me? Because maybe what I think a nigger is may be different than what you think a nigger is. So tell me what your definition is." And so he said, "Well, it's like Tupac said, never ignorant, getting goals accomplished." So I said, "Never ignorant, getting goals accomplished." So I said, "Okay, well, listening to what you said and listening to who you're quoting, Tupac, let's look at Tupac in practice." He said, "Never ignorant, getting goals accomplished." Well, back in September of 1996, when he got into that altercation after the Mike Tyson fight in a public place, knowing that he was a high-profile person, would you say that that was an intelligent move or that was an act of ignorance? And the young person goes, "Well, it wasn't the smartest thing he could do." So I said, "Well, is it intelligent or ignorant?" Well, they said, "Well, it was pretty ignorant." So then I said, "Well, everything that I know about Tupac, He wanted to be at the top of his field. He wanted to be the best rapper. He wanted to excel in terms of films. So the goals that he wanted to get accomplished was to be the very best. So did he accomplish his goal by getting shot down in Vegas? So he goes, no. So I said, so by your rationale, if nigger means never ignorant, getting goals accomplished, it didn't work for Tupac, so why does it work for you? And the young person immediately became very agitated and combative.
Yeah, you threw a kink in his programming.
Well, you could have lost
his ego.
Right, exactly.
You see, and this I think to be honest, with yourself, which is I think well, the main question in this bill, non-white people being honest with ourselves, we definitely have to get rid of our ego. But I think the white supremacists have done a great job in constructing our ego for us. So, yeah, that's just, I just want to make that point. The ego, that false self, and where do we get this idea of a false self from? But from the white supremacist media. And, I mean, when you deal with youth, you see it, You try to talk to youth about white supremacy or about anything, a middle school classroom of non-white kids, and you just see it, But when they progress in age, they develop, themselves and that ego, and that's pretty much the main. You see, you broke it. You broke it.
Not really, because I think the young guy he opened the door for you, but you killed his inspirations or his approach towards nigga, and he wanted to be enlightened, and he was trying to meet you halfway because he is confused. And the Tupac thing was more, he was set up by the government to be assassinated. He was becoming more larger than life. Like I heard Little Kim or somebody saying that she come to a realization that Suge Knight and him, it was bigger than that. You see Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a bodybuilder, he's now a governor of the state of California. Tupac, to mature into his 40s, will probably end up becoming more conscious, but they wasn't going to give him the time of life or the time of day because he was from the Black Panthers movement, so he was semi-conscious, but he wasn't given time enough to develop. So I think that was bigger than. I mean, yeah, you were right about the nigger word. That is confusion. But I think you could. There's a way to reach these young kids through. Tupac is a great example of racism and white supremacy.
John Potage, the book or the program or both, he makes a great connection with a lot of evidence. Tupac Shakur and white supremacy. He was on in October of 2009. We have 3 minutes left. We'll be back. It'll either be tomorrow or Thursday. Pam and I are going to do a program. We have to work out the details and such, but should be constructive. Please invest, especially books. If you could check the wish list, the highest priority books, those would be great. Dr. Ann Patel, she's in Australia. She writes about racism and white supremacy. She's a non-white person. She'll be on at the end of the month. I think it would be constructive if I could prepare and read for those programs. See if I can get it in quickly. I made the comment about Oreo experience because the guest, Avery Klein-Cloud, she said that she used the term. She said that her friends reference her as Oreo and she doesn't have a problem with it. She gave her definition, and it did remind me of the Oreo experience. Her definition, slang, disparaging and offensive. A black person who is regarded as having adopted the attitudes, values, and behavior thought to be characteristic of middle class white society, often at the expense of his or her own heritage. I believe our guest did say that she straightened her hair in an attempt to become more feminine. So she's identifying characteristics that are associated with white people with femininity. I think you all can, make your own conclusion if there is a connection. We'll be back. Replace white supremacy with justice.
Yeah, that's one of my symptoms. Doing things more acceptable to white people. Not willing to, I guess, being reluctant to address or actively analyze or admit the dominance of white supremacy. So, that's I think that goes hand in hand with feeling like straightening the hair is the way to go.
And I wanted to say, as far as speaking with non-white people about racism, I no longer have patience with remedial or racism 101, and I think you seek out people who are at your level of understanding in your area, and they exist. To communicate with. To the brother who was talking about non-white people's eyes glazing over.